Shalom and welcome to Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Today we're looking at Exodus chapter 26, beginning in verse 1. There are 37 verses. Verse 1 says, work of a weaver versus cunning work. This is a significant difference, and you're going to see this difference throughout the text. It's a continuous difference. So when you think of cunning work, and that is a term that is repeated often in the King James Version, what it really means is the work of a weaver, somebody who weaves, an embroiderer, someone who sews, seamstress, I guess you could say. In verse 3, joined, see the word here, joined, versus coupled. So joined means to connect. Verse 4, on one side, it says here the second half, you shall make for them loops on one side for the coupling, versus a selvage, which is a border or an edge. So that is not the same meaning at all. I'd say those are completely different things. So you shall make loops of blue on the edge of one, on one side for the coupling. So shall you make on the edge of the outer curtain for the second coupling. Okay, for here it says, make loops on the edge of one curtain from the edge of the coupling, the border in the coupling, and you shall make the uttermost edge. So it's just a lot more edges going on here, whereas in the Septuagint, it talks about one side. But unless you actually see this curtain, it's hard to really visualize and to ascertain which one makes more sense. So you need to see it before you. Verse 5, the last part of the verse is different. It says here, on the part of the curtain answering to the coupling of the second, opposite each other, corresponding to each other at each point. Whereas in the MT it says, you shall make in the edge of the curtain, that is in the coupling of the second, so that's fine, that the loops may take hold one of another. Okay, so instead of corresponding to each other, it's saying take hold one of another. So it looks like they're opposite. So it's saying it's opposite each other and they're corresponding to each other, potentially being joined. So I wouldn't say it's a major difference. It's definitely expressed a lot differently, but could very well be saying the same thing because they're corresponding to each other at each point. Again, if you can actually see this curtain, it would make more sense. Verse 6, rings. Rings versus taches. So taches means a buckle or a clasp. This is a continuous difference you will see throughout. Verse 7, skins versus curtains. A covering of tabernacle skins. You shall make them 11 skins versus 11 curtains you will make. So goat's hair is not a curtain. Goat's hair is definitely a skin. You wouldn't say, look at this goat's curtain. No, you'd say, look at its fur, its skin. Verse 9, join together versus couple by themselves. So join the 5 skins together versus couple 5 curtains by themselves. Either way, they are being connected. Verse 11, skin versus tent. You shall join the skins, they shall be one, versus couple the tent together, that it may be one. Again, I believe the Septuagint makes more sense because the tent is one unified structure versus skins. When they join, yeah, they become a covering. Verse 12, this is omitted. You shall fix is omitted. As well, the last half of the verse, according to the overplus of the skins of the tabernacle, You shall fold it over behind the tabernacle. That is completely omitted. As you can see, it's half the length of the Septuagint. Verse 14, blue skins versus badgers. Blue skins versus badger skins. We spoke about this in the previous chapter, and this is a continuous difference. Verse 15, posts versus boards. Okay. Boards standing up. So that is a continuous difference as well. There's a lot of continuous differences when it comes to this, these parts of the tabernacle and its various elements. Verse 18, north versus south. South side southward. Okay. What does that even mean, south side southward? That's a huge, I'd say it's a major difference. A big difference, for sure. It's not even the same direction. Verse 22, west. West was added in the Masoretic. It is uncertain in this verse. On the back of the tabernacle, at the part which is toward the west, you shall make 6 posts. Okay? And for the sides of the tabernacle westward, you shall make 6 boards. Okay. Actually, it looks like it's saying the same thing. I'm not sure why I wrote that, so I might have to correct that. That isn't a difference. So I'm going to edit that and just say ignore it. Verse 23, behind, tabernacle behind versus in the 2 sides. Okay, why would you put posts on behind the tabernacle? They would be in the corners, so it would make more sense structurally, from a structural point of view. Verse 24, equal, let them be equal. Versus coupled, it shall be equal below, talking about the posts, versus they shall be coupled together. Okay, well, you can couple things, but they're not necessarily equal. They could be different heights. And why would you do that? But it doesn't specify here that they are equal. So it's important to state that. Verse 27, toward the sea. That's at the last part, versus toward westward. So for the 2 sides westward, that's important to qualify. Verse 31 is the sig diff. It says here, cunning work is associated with the linen in the Masoretic text. Okay, but the Septuagint says cherubs in woven work refers to the cherubs. Okay, so let's look at this. You shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet woven. Okay, and fine linen spun. You shall make it cherubs in woven work. So they're embroidering these cherubs into this veil, this beautiful multicolored veil. On the other hand, it says here, you shall make a veil. In the Masoretic text, it says, fine twined linen of cunning work. Okay, instead of fine linen spun. So cunning work is spun in the Septuagint as well. You can see with cherubim shall it be made. It doesn't say woven, just as made. It could be many different methods, but we can see in the Septuagint it's very specific. They're woven into the veil. It isn't just given for people to interpret and just to insert their own interpretation. No, it says it outright. So that's a significant difference. Verse 32, tops. Their tops shall be gold versus their hooks. Verse 33, on the posts versus under the taches. There's a huge difference in verse 34. The screen, you shall screen with the veil. the Ark of the Testimony in the Holy of Holies. So you have the Ark, and then in the Holy of Holies, there's a veil screening it. It's closing it off. It's separate. What does it say in the Masoretic? You shall put the mercy seat upon the Ark of the Testimony in the most holy place. Well, we already know that. It isn't screened with the veil. That is a huge difference. Because when you remember, if you recall, when Yehoshua HaMashiach died, when Jesus Christ died, the veil of the temple was ripped in two. Which veil was this? The veil right there, ladies and gentlemen, in verse 33. That veil was ripped, meaning the access to that Holy of Holies and the Ark of the Testimony by association was now accessible only by the blood of the Lamb. And that's the only day where they could do that, I believe, is on the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, where they actually put the blood onto the mercy seat. Interesting. So that's verse 34. Did I say 33? Verse 34. Let me just correct that. In verse 36, the work of the embroiderer. Okay, that's the last part. Versus wrought with needlework. So it's not necessarily, in the Masoretic, it's not necessarily made by a professional, somebody who specializes in the art of embroidering. No, it's not that. But in the Septuagint, it does say this is the work of the embroiderer. This is someone who's a specialist, an expert at embroidering. So that is a continuous difference. You will see. I won't mention that anymore. And then the last difference we notice is verse 37, chapiters. Now, if you study columns, if you know anything about columns, the chapiter is the top part of the column, okay, as well as the bottom, but it's usually the top part of the column. But the Masoretic text says the hooks, okay? It says hooks instead of chapiters. So that's dishonest. That's not telling you there aren't hooks on the pillar, okay, on a column. There are chapiters, so that's correctly expressed in the Septuagint once again. Let's look at Exodus chapter 27, because these differences, I would say, they're not minor, but they're significant, but they're not very, there weren't too many of them. So let's move on. Exodus chapter 27 now. There are 21 verses. Verse 3, the first half is different. You shall make a rim for the altar and its covering and its cups. Okay, we'll stop there. Verses, and you shall make his pans to receive his ashes. So not a rim, but pans to receive his ashes. Okay, and its covering and its cups and his shovels and his basins. So you can see it's not the same at all. These are pretty big differences. Very technically and factually not the same in the first half. Verse 5, we have the grate of the altar versus the compass and the net. So again, grate is replaced not only with a compass, but also with the word net. So not the same things at all. As you know, today we have, when we think of compass and net, we think of specific objects. Perhaps these were similar to a grate, because a net in some ways has a grate-like structure. It's interwoven. But a compass, I'm not sure what that is besides, the one for directional to help you navigate. So that's verse 5. Verse 13, the whole verse is a big difference. We're going to look at that. It says here, and in the breadth of the tabernacle toward the south, Masoretic, and the breadth of the court, not the tabernacle, in the east side, so not even the same direction. Back to the Septuagint, curtains of 50 cubits. Okay, that actually matches up in the Masoretic. And then it says their pillars 10, their sockets 10. So that was omitted completely. So that's 13. And there's an omission. I just add that there. Last half. Verse 14, 50 cubits versus 15. So discrepancy there. Big discrepancy of, what is that? 35 cubits. 15, both say 15 in verse 15. 15 cubits, okay. Verse 14 was a mistranslation of the number. Most likely in the Septuagint, it sounds like the Septuagint actually mistranslated the number. So I stand corrected. Verse 14 looks like it's actually 15, not 50. Sometimes the Septuagint isn't as accurate with numbers, I have to admit. I've noticed this even in the genealogies. But when you do the math, it adds up. Or if you just use your logic and if you use logic for this part of the account, the height of the curtains, okay, it has to match the next set of curtains. You can't have 150 and then 115. They need to match because this is a symmetrical structure. Okay, there's harmony in it. Verse 17, overlaid with silver versus filleted with silver. Filleted or filleted, I'm going to say filleted, was furnished or adorned. So similar meanings anyhow. Verse 19, furniture, all the furniture versus furniture and instruments shall be of brass versus all the vessels. And then the word pins thereof was added. Verse 20, the word refined, pure olive oil. So refined was omitted. And then verse 21, we have here testimony, tabernacle of the testimony versus, so the testimony is the Ark of the Covenant because that's the Ark of the testimony, the Ark of witness. It's like basically saying this is the container of evidence of what the Exodus and a lot of things that Yah wanted to, our Father wanted to preserve as a witness. So it's not a tabernacle of the congregation. Actually, it is of the congregation, but this is a tabernacle housing the Ark of the Covenant. So it's not meant for people, all of Israel, to just go in and sit down like it's a synagogue. It's not that at all. It's for the Levites to minister in. Nobody goes inside that tabernacle. Instead, they're most likely in the courtyard area. So you see that difference, testimony versus congregation, and that is a significant difference. We just need to note that. And then we have covenant, the Ark of the Covenant versus testimony, before the testimony. Okay, so it correctly says it's a testimony. It is an Ark of the Testimony, but it is also Ark of the Covenant. So it's multiple things. It's not just one. It's not one-dimensional. It is multi-dimensional. It is an Ark of the Testimony. It contains testimonies, but it is also the Ark of the Covenant because the tablets themselves were part of the covenant agreement that whatever Elohim says to do, we will do. And so they made a covenant, and those are the words in there. So it is the covenant as well. Burn, referring to the lamp. Burn it from evening till morning. So the lamp, the menorah, versus order it. So ordering it means just, okay, put in order, but not physically burning it. That's a significant difference as well. A big difference. And then throughout your generations is at the end there, versus unto their generations. So Just do it to your generations. Okay, which ones? Just, the ones now, or it's open to interpretation, but Septuagint again is very specific throughout your generation. So it's going to continue. It is a perpetual thing. It doesn't say perpetual, but that's kind of implied when you say throughout your generation. It's going to just keep on going. It doesn't really stop. It's expected to continue throughout. Okay, that's all for that chapter. You know what? I think I'm going to stop there, and we'll cover Exodus chapter 28 next time. So thank you very much for your time. May our Father, our Elohim, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, our Creator, made the heaven and the earth. May He make your way prosperous. May He bless you. And until next time, this is Jack Knight signing off for Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Shalom.